Hello, my name is Ben Moore, and I have finished Judgment.
Hello, my name is Michael Huber, and I've finished Judge Eyes.
Hello, I'm Brad Ellis, and I finished Judgment.
Huber played it in Japanese, no English subtitles. All right, get your keys ready, boys. Spoiler mode activated.
Spoiler mode, final warning, spoiler mode, activated.
Guys, we've been waiting for Judgment slash Judge Eyes.
I think we've called it Judge Eyes more than Judgment.
Love it.
Because it's fun to say.
Love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah. It is fun to say. Like Biohazard,
Yep.
I still think is the Psycho Break, also another very good.
Psycho Break.
Psycho Break, it's really a shame.
I know.
Psycho Break is the better name.
Yeah.
All right. But Judgment, Judge Eyes, whatever you would like to call it, is a game we've been looking forward to for a long time. To varying degrees, we've all been attached to Yakuza in one form or another. We all have some love for Kamurocho, for those characters. And this is a different spin on things. And so I think that kind of created a high bar out the gate. We're going back to Kamurocho, but we're telling a new story. Will this new story live up to the expectations of a series we enjoy so much? So I guess starting out with that kind of, since none of us are coming at this fresh, right? Like none of us are in the position of having not played a Yakuza game before. And so with those expectations going into the game, how did you feel?
I felt real good, Ben. Before this game came out, I was so I've played 0, Kiwami 1 and 2. So I've just scratched the surface of the franchise, but I really, really, really love Kazuma and Majima. And when in Judgment, I see this new character, I'm like, man, this looks cool, but can I like this cast of characters as much as I love Kazuma and Majima and the rest of the gang? Can I do it? Yes.
Yeah, Brett,
Yes.
even you just saying, talking about Kiryu and Majima, like, just looking at them inspires such feelings. Like, Kiryu is just such an imposing presence. There's just something about him that's so powerful. And Majima, obviously, like, just such a character. It's fun just watching him move or emote. I don't think Yagami isn't that striking at first glance. But what I will say is that ends up not being a negative. I think the nuance that Yagami has to his character, I think he's my favorite part of this game, just of the whole thing.
Definitely.
And there's so many things that I want to get into regarding him and what's great. But before we do that, Huber, as a giant Yakuza fan, what did you think going into Judgment?
Exceeded my expectations slightly.
Okay, so what
And
were
I had
your
very-
expectations?
I guess I was just a little nervous is kind of a weird word to use. I wasn't nervous, but it's always hard when something culminates and then you kind of have to go on like a prequel or a sidequel or a spin-off, because Yakuza 6 for all intents and purposes was like, they marketed it.
The end.
Yeah, they're like, hey, this is the end of this, the Infinity Saga is over.
Yeah.
So it's like, especially too, because we had been on that journey for so long with Yakuza 6, 0, Kiwami 1, 2, like, so we were so invested in that, having to kind of reset. I was, again, nervous is kind of a strong word, but I was like, all right, I want to just be able to get attached like I was to Kazuma and Majima. And this fresh start is nervous. Am I going to like these characters? Am I going to like this new perspective? It's just Yakuza with a reskin, but I was just so enthralled with Yagami. Like, just such a great character. Like, held my hand, took me all the way to the finish line.
Yeah. I want to talk about expectations because I think at the first we heard about Judgment, the way that I remember it is, what is this? Like, what is going to happen? Like, okay, cool. It seems different. And then I remember playing the Japanese demo and being like, oh, okay, they're doing some new things, but it is definitely very embedded in the Yakuza formula. And so it went from, whoa, what in the world, to this is very familiar.
Yeah.
And there
that
is
feeling though of like, are we just stalling now until the next like mainline Yakuza game?
Right, and I think somewhere in the back of your head, it's like, okay, how exciting is this going to be? And in broad strokes, there is so much Yakuza in this game, from the combat to the way that you interact with the world, to the structure of the game. There are very new and notable things, but I think it is. I've said this several times. I feel like they just are getting better at telling stories, and the story in Judgment is just so incredible. And I want to talk about Yagami because it's something that I mentioned before, it's something that I mentioned in the review, but like a point that I want to hammer home is the way Yagami handles his guilt. This guilt that defines him. So he got somebody off for murder, right? And then that person presumably went and killed someone else. And I'm obviously just simplifying things for the sake of explaining Yagami here. But the way that he deals with that is, I feel like in a lot of games, you'd have the character dwelling on it. You have them being melodramatic about it. You'd have them be maybe kind of edgy and dark and brooding. And it just wouldn't feel that relatable. But there's this maturity to Yagami. And I think Kiryu has that as well. But I just love how he acknowledges it. He accepts it. It hurts him. But he also understands and is constantly working for making amends.
Totally.
Like, he doesn't make excuses for that guilt.
Yeah,
and
he
I think
owns up
that's
to
so
it.
good. Yeah.
Absolutely. And just the way he solves cases, you know? Like, we're not going to be getting too into side cases, but just the way he interacts with those people, like, hey, are you sure you want to know this? You know, people will come to him with problems. He'll be like, do you know what you're getting into?
Yeah.
Do you want the truth? Love that stuff.
Yeah, and just this way the Judgment, I think, approaches its storytelling, like, my appreciation for Yagami and a lot of the characters only grew over time. And it's not like you get introduced to a character and then the game stops and is like, okay, here's everything about this character. They out of nowhere, not out of nowhere sometimes, but throughout the course of the game, they will add new layers to these characters.
Yeah.
And I think Kaito, your partner, right, your partner, your detective agency partner in the game, he initially just kind of seems like this,
Like a hired thug to me. That's the vibe I got at first.
yeah, like
He's just there to brawl and get paid, kind of thing like that.
It's the muscle.
That's it.
right. He's the muscle, he's the buddy, and you're like, oh, okay, I think I understand him. But then when you kind of learn his sort of fall from grace,
past, yeah.
and just where they place it in the story, you have a whole new appreciation for that character.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that happens with so many characters, not everyone, but a lot of them.
Dude, with Kaito really quick, I
Yeah.
thought there was going to be a connection with Kazuma.
Yeah,
For sure.
Like
yeah.
he was a cousin or something.
Yeah.
Just his vibe, his attire, everything about him. I was like, dude, I would not be surprised if he's like related.
Yeah, it's so funny because I feel like you played the entire game just like waiting for that
Yeah.
very explicit connection.
was like, is
or
it?
that appearance.
Yeah. I was like,
Um,
nah.
Because we did a preview. I did a preview of Judgment, and the Sega reps were like, yeah, it's not. It's just not. They were very explicit. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And so that helped, I think.
Heck yeah.
But going back to getting attached to characters and having them surprising you, were there any characters that maybe you didn't think of much at first or that you really grew attached to, like somebody that just kind of...
Yeah, I really loved Higashi. The
Yeah.
other guy.
Higashi.
I just loved that guy, dude.
Yeah.
Like how they're always just fighting and stuff all the time. Like he was like a Yakuza and you're on like at odds with them all the time, but he like secretly like kind of always had your back. Then you like become more friends. You guys are chill. Like my favorite thing in the game was everyone chilling in the arcade.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just that sketch arcade was my favorite
The
part of the game.
sounds of that arcade.
Yeah, oh
man.
my god, so good. When you just show up and bust in all the time. It's like, what are you doing? It's so good.
Heck yeah. Kurowa, the villain, dude.
Oh my god.
The main cop killer.
So that final battle with him,
Dude.
the way that...
The ice pick killer, whatever his name was.
The mole, yeah.
The mole, that was
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I'm thinking of
Oh my
The
God.
way
of
they
Dexter.
frame that fight and the fight itself is really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
To
that fight was
me-
sick.
To me, it's one of my... It's one of my favorite Yakuza villains, honestly. I loved it, the mole, dude. Everything about the mole. I'm all about some, like, just him using the law to dance around, you know, just the way the game really handled the law, like from the lawyers, from the police, just the way it handles that, and just having it's funny because they set up Ayabi, the dirty cop that's like selling
who's
secrets.
fantastic.
Such
good.
a great character.
Yeah.
So good.
And it's like he's so dirty. He's just such a dirty cop.
But good.
Yeah.
You know?
Good.
Yeah.
And that morally gray stuff. And it's so great that just next to Kurawa, it's like, no, like this, what you think of a dirty cop is actually like, he's kind of a good guy.
Yeah.
In the end, but Kurawa is the one who's
So-
catching.
Kuroiwa, the
Yeah.
mole. I'm actually, unfortunately, going to disagree with you here.
Oh, you didn't like it?
Well, it's hard because I think like aesthetically, and the way they kind of frame that fight, it is really big
Yeah.
and just exciting to go through. Like the fight itself is great, but as far as his actual character goes, I didn't feel there. And I think just because the only reason I feel this way is because I think the game does a tremendous job with so many other characters of really having me understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And I feel a strong motivation for them. So somebody like Shono, right? The reason why he's so committed to this, he explains his history with Alzheimer's and why it's just been like kind of this tragedy for him. And I guess, and maybe this would change if I saw it again, but I think just on that initial playthrough, I didn't feel like I had as good of an understanding or I was as convinced by his motivations as I was with some of the other characters.
That's exactly why I loved it, man.
That mystery.
Yeah, and because like I'm just so like lately I've just been like sick of tragedy dumps where someone is like, "Hey, listen,
Tragic backstory.
hey, listen to my tragic backstory, and this is where I'm coming from." And now like, oh, you can relate to me, but I'm like still the villain, and it's just like,
He's just cruel, man.
yeah.
He's just a cruel killer.
And like his he had like the John Wick style moves, you know. It did it for me.
I
loved
think
it.
the reason why the tragedy dumps, which is a very funny phrase, worked for me in Judgment, is they would always add another layer to it. They would keep twisting it. And so it wasn't just like, this is the tragedy dump. You would have the tragedy dump, and then you would have the tragedy dump to the tragedy dump, and then you would have the tragedy dump to the tragedy dump to the tragedy dump. And so I always felt invested, and whatever I thought was going on, like even with the case, even with the central case, like it just kept shifting that it remained interesting to me. And I agree with you. I think that's actually a really good point, that I don't think everybody needs to be so layered like that. But I think I just wanted a little bit more.
sure.
Totally.
And I get
Totally.
that
I get
worked for
your
you.
point too. Yeah, 100%.
Brad,
yes.
going back to you, were there, I guess, comparing it to Yakuza, I guess, where would you put this in terms of like how it emotionally affected you? Were there any low points in the story? Like, where would you rank
question.
this?
The thing about Yakuza is the three that I've played, they've all been connected, so I have like a deep bond with these characters already. And these are just brand new characters. So there's definitely like, to me, there's like, when something happens in Yakuza, sometimes it's built up for a long time and it like really pays off a lot of times.
Yeah.
This is just kind of like, new game, here's this new kind of thing. But I feel like the payoffs were pretty satisfying. Like when we were fighting at the end of the game, I was like, this feels like a real deal fight.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it came through, like the payoffs for me was from like the courtroom stuff. This whole game, you're trying to like prove this guy's innocence, man. And like when you just get all the evidence at the end, then he gets off, you just see his reaction and just everyone like tears, man. Like I got like choked up, dude. This, because you really feel for this guy who got framed for this murder, just put in a really bad situation his whole life. Everyone hates him. People around you hate you because you got him off.
Yeah.
Think about how good kind of the opening act, I guess, of Judgment is, where you get Hamura off, you get this guy off, and you're like, you kind of go through a whole arc, right? Like you put the pieces together, you do your job, and you're like, there's still something not right. And you just like, you open this little hole, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think that is so effective because, like, Judgment, I feel like, kind of gets into this routine where it will pace something off and tease something else.
Yes.
And so you like pretty much always feel like satisfied and intrigued as well.
There's enough to keep you going.
When putting notes together, like pretty much all of my notes are just characters, and I think that's a strength of this game. And so I do kind of want to go back because there is a character that I didn't really get to talk about in the review or in Frame Trap or anything that really stood out to me. And I want to talk about Shirosaki, the defense attorney, the kind of like more reserved glasses character at the Genda Law Office. I thought her arc was so fantastic.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, dude, you do the interrogation about the cake and everything.
Yes. The interrogation about the cake is like hilarious.
Yeah.
Like it's weird that the whole like required side mission thing is a little weird, but
Like dressing her up and stuff with
no, the cake. Remember where you
okay,
come
yeah,
in,
yeah, yeah.
and they're like, "Who ate the cake?" And there's accusations.
You gotta prove,
flying all over
yeah,
the place,
totally.
You gotta solve it. But her dressing up and being a hostess, I feel like that was a really interesting scene. I want to know if you guys agree with me or if you had the same take on it.
Sure, yeah.
Because like she has to do this thing that is super uncomfortable, right? Like especially dealing with this gross dude who you know is not a good guy.
Yeah.
But I feel like she is given so much agency within the story where it's like, okay, I understand why we're doing this. I want to do it. I'm making this decision. And then like learning more about herself in the process, but not being reduced to this thing, not being reduced to this like eye candy, toy for this weird creepy guy. Like it feels like there's a lot of power there.
Totally.
And I think it is rare when you get something that is written that well, that can handle a female character like that with, I feel like, a good degree of respect, but also like isn't like moralizing about it. Like it doesn't feel like it's talking down to you, the player, and it doesn't completely dominate the story. Like it's a pretty small part of the story, but it's a highlight because it's handled so well and so efficiently.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm forgetting his name now. The other like young lawyer with the backpack.
Oh, your pal.
Your pal.
Yeah, I actually don't have his name written down. I know
Hoshino.
exactly who you're talking about.
Hoshino.
Hoshino.
Yeah, just like their little
Relationship?
love
Yeah,
connection
and
is
how it
adorable.
blossoms.
It's
Yes,
absolutely
yes,
adorable.
yes.
Any time, because she just handles everything so well. She likes making him uncomfortable, and that just I loved all their interactions.
Yeah. Speaking of like love interest stuff, I think it's another thing that I really respect about Judgment. The female prosecutor whose name I cannot recall and do not have written down.
Yeah, it's
But
it's onto my tongue.
but the reason I don't have her written down is I feel like the game could have done it in like
Fuji.
the
Mayfu.
the most like typical love interest way of having that be this giant part of the story, and like her and Yagami come together, and it like you can already see that
it playing
entire
out.
storyline playing out exactly as you think. And Judgment doesn't do that. It acknowledges it, it plays into it, it's obvious that they care about each other, but it never cashes in, it never becomes this like obligatory thing.
Yeah.
And man, that's what I'm so impressed with Judgment, is it has this level of restraint. It doesn't walk down the same path that like Yakuza as a series has walked down plenty of times, and obviously countless stories have walked down.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool. So now that you've completed Judgment, I think another thing to talk about is like what would you want from a Judgment 2? Like what are things that you think could be improved upon?
Immediately. Less tailing missions.
Less tailing.
Shorter.
Yeah.
Like, God.
More courtroom cases.
Love the courtroom cases.
Like, let me go a full Ace Attorney now. Come on, like give me some case stuff.
Like maybe more
Better
depth.
call Yagami.
Maybe more depth to it. Like certain decisions have more of an impact on things overall.
Totally.
Yeah, I think it would be really cool if they could make the courtroom scenes like interactive to a large degree and have that play into it, because those moments, as Brad stated, there are moments within the story that happen in the court that are really, really exciting. And I think just because obviously other games have done it, it could work really, really well in Judgment.
Yeah, like choices are so big in games now. Like Assassin's Creed just added them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. If you can start.
Dude, like how...
Just imagine if you get someone off of a crime or they go to jail or something, and that affects...
Yeah, like you get some dude off, then you like see him in the street later on, you get a side quest from him or something.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
How did you guys feel? It's a segment that I've brought up multiple times, but how did you guys feel about the dialogue choices that are in Judgment? Did you think that was handled well? Do you think it could be handled better? Because you're talking about choice and how important we want that to feel. Do you feel like it mattered in Judgment?
Not really. Not really. No.
It
just feels so bare bones.
It's because they have like a certain story they want to tell. I feel like
right.
like they don't have room for that.
Yeah.
So I agree with both of you, and that's actually why I like it. It is super inconsequential.
Yeah.
But I think it's because their style of storytelling, they just have a story that they want to tell, and it's so there's so many layers to it. There's so many just like double crossing and organizations to keep track of and different factions of people that it actually, I feel like, helped me focus more during conversations.
True.
Because it's like, oh, okay, well, I was able to pick, put things in the right order, ask questions in the right order, because I was like really focused on what was going on. And
I do like that stuff.
Yeah, and I think just that little tool, even though it was inconsequential, obviously it didn't really impact the story.
Yeah.
It was just a little touch that I liked.
Yeah. Get a little XP bonus.
Yeah.
Doing them all right in a row. I like that.
Yeah.
I just like I think it was Yakuza 6 or Kiwami 2. It was one of those where you go to the bar and you can like build relationships with people, and there was like a dialogue thing, and it was like very high stakes, very intense of like building these relationships with these people, like picking the words. So I thought it was kind of a step
Down
not back,
from that.
maybe like a step sideways.
Sure.
So yeah.
Let's talk about the relationship building that is in this game, where you can go to just like around the city or different places of business, and you can kind of increase your friendship level with people, which will increase your overall city level. How do you feel about that system?
10 out of 10 times 10, 10. So many tens. Bonds. Cruising the city for bonds.
Yeah, you are. You're cruising. You're literally cruising the city for bonds.
Yeah.
There were
'Cause,
definitely
I just think of like the steak shop
sure.
or like this restaurant, and there's like two separate ones. There's one where the guy's like on the billboard outside or whatever. He's like the owner, and he's just like trying to get his restaurant going, and then you set up these fast food restaurants that are like enemies. It'd be like McDonald's and Burger King or something. You set up this whole thing where they like work together. And there's like cross promotion, or you're giving this other guy advice to like build up his restaurant. He's like, yeah, we're not doing well. You got any advice, Yagami? Like
The guy
I love
that
it.
immediately jumps to my mind is the guy in the sushi shop who doesn't know anything about
Yes.
sushi and is like, you're like trying to help him out.
Yep.
Oh, it's so good. And then you have like the like smile burger photos where you're, and it's great because it allows for this space where it's like, okay, this isn't a full-blown side mission. Obviously, it's not part of the main story, but you still get a better, like Kamurocho is more meaningful because of these interactions that you're having with these people.
It's more meaningful. It's giving you those self-contained stories with payoffs, building the bonds, just getting you more invested. I just love everything about the way this series handles side quests and XP and eating and talking to people. I think it's one of the best in the entire industry. I'm not even kidding around.
So
Not kidding
I'm
around.
so passionate about it, man.
I feel like this goes back to your point of like not everything needs to be this way. Like not everything has to be deep, or not everything has to have this crazy story. And I agree with that. And I think for the most part, these friendships that you're making with people feel that. There are definitely people that I ran into where I just like
some throwaways.
yeah, there's definitely some throwaways, and
For sure.
like I don't even think there needs to be that much. Like I think a little bit goes a long way, and so there were definitely conversations that I had with
Dude,
people.
okay, I kind of like that though, because that reminds me of life. Like
Sure.
someone like just the people you talk to, like at a coffee place, it's
Right.
just so casual.
They
Even if you like,
want to ask each other out. Did
yeah,
you do that one?
no, but like just like the relationship I would have with someone like that, it's not necessarily as deep as something else, but it's still like there. There's still a tiny bond.
Sure.
It just doesn't have to be as big as every other bond.
Yeah, and I definitely don't even want it to be big. And I think your point of like, hey, this is how it mirrors life is interesting. It's just, and I feel this way not just with Judgment or Yakuza, but I think with side quests in general, is sometimes you get an expectation. And especially in something like Judgment, where the side missions can be so good and the characters can be so good, and when you have those friendships that really stick with you, you kind of get into this mind frame of like, oh man, I can't wait to see what this friendship is going to be like. And then it ends up being kind of nothing, and you're like, that's okay, but man, it's not.
It's not as good as the other.
You're just, I think your brain, or my brain at least, is just like naturally comparing it, and it's like you feel a little bit disappointment just because you know how good it can be, even if it's small.
Yeah.
I think is where I'm coming from with that.
I just really appreciate like the avenues to obtain the side quests, I guess. I guess there's ones where you can just go into an establishment and build a bond with the restaurant, implying that like you're a regular customer or whatever.
Yeah.
But then I like that now in Judgment, people come to your agency
Yeah.
Yes.
to hire you, and I loved that some of those were quest chains. So some of those investigations like would come back, like the brother and sister that came
Yes.
back and had payoffs numerous times, and I loved that there were these higher stakes, more continuity style side quest from that avenue, but then also the smaller like I'm at a coffee shop, I'm doing this small little thing. And that's always been the one disconnect in Yakuza is like, why would Kazuma just go up to this person standing there and talk to him? All right, I can forgive it. But having this avenue to be like, okay, hi, Yagami, like I'm going to hire you. You know, just this more natural way to obtain the side quest, I think goes a long way to suck you into this world.
I think you're touching on something in Judgment that like video games at large should just do better. Is they don't get into this routine of like, okay, we have these different like funnels that we can put story into. It's going to be the same way every time. Like you're going to go up, you're going to talk to somebody and be like, oh, help me. And then you go help them. And like, there's a little bit of that, but there are so many ways, exactly like you're talking about, where you don't know where the story is coming from. You don't know where your favorite moment of the game is going to appear because they're constantly shifting it around. They're making, characters come back and have kind of multi-chain quests. Even, I don't know if you guys experimented with it at all in Judgment, but even like getting a girlfriend, like asking somebody out,
I did,
and it not just being focused on you and her, but having that develop into its own storyline, like the struggling musician is who I dated. And like the nuance to that.
There
and
was
how,
a lot of nuance.
There was
in
a
that.
lot.
Yes.
It's like kind of
it's like, dude, I'm older, but like,
Right.
Are you into this?
Right.
No.
Like,
Am I? No.
just how wonderfully slow that played out, and how many different aspects there were to it, and then dealing with the crazy obsessed fan. It's like, hey, what do I do? Like, obviously, I'm very grateful to my fans, but this is weird. And it's just, I just felt like it touched on so many things and felt so natural. It didn't feel like you as Yagami were like, oh, okay, I want you to be my girlfriend, and then that's it. And it's just like a simple mechanic. Like they really, it felt like they really tried to make it a nuanced relationship, which I super appreciate.
I'm really glad you brought that up because that was one of my strongest bonds in the game. Kept it friendly.
Yeah.
Because
I feel like you do that every game.
Not every time. Like,
dude, Witcher
usually
3, you're telling me, dude?
Yennefer, though, for life. Like, exclusive. Geralt's exclusive. I'm sorry. But yeah, like you were saying, it was so nuanced because I felt a real bond there, man. I'm just really glad you brought it up because it was more than a friendship, but less than a relationship with her.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of what you were talking about. Just, it's good.
So it's a problem that I mentioned before, but I want to kind of throw it at you guys because I think with kind of the sprawling nature of Judgment, and like I said, you don't know where the best parts are going to happen, and you get a mix of short stories and long stories, and it's all over the place, and that's what makes it special, and I think that's what makes Kamurocho such an exciting place to be in. I think sometimes, like you mentioned the tailing, right? And we talked about how much variety there is in Judgment, and so it's always weird when it's like, this is clearly like not that fun. Why do you keep doing it? I think that is a very valid criticism. I think the other thing that kind of trips me up is sometimes like you'll have moments with a main story specifically, just talking about the main story, where it's like, okay, I'm choosing to do the main story. Like, why are we spinning our wheels? Like, why am I doing this thing that's not related to like the objective that I started with? Like, it seems like they're just trying to get you to explore this rich world that they created, and I totally respect that, and it's worth digging into. It's really wonderful. But I think just like when you make that choice, right? When you make the choice to do the main story, sometimes I feel like, not that they would respect that choice a little bit more, but I feel like it could be tighter and even more impactful, like when you're going down that path. Do you agree with that?
100%. And as a player, I do usually all the side quests in games. I love side quests. Completionist in that sense. I feel like there's just a little too much on both ends. That like cut a chapter or even two from the main storyline.
For sure, yeah.
Maybe instead of 50 side quests, we have 30. Just trim it up.
Make them all way better.
All killer, no filler, for sure.
That's actually something to maybe talk about what we want in the future. That it's a problem that I think Yakuza has already solved a few times. So Yakuza 0, right, switching between Majima and Kiryu really helped a lot. I think it kind of alleviated that sense a little bit. Same thing with like Yakuza 4 and 5, where I was like, oh man, like because there are so many characters in Yakuza 4, it was like everything felt pretty tight. Going through all those different storylines. Not that it was perfect, right? Like I think if you're playing this series or from this developer, you're expecting long conversations, so you have to be willing to do that going in. But in Judgment 2, would you be okay with that approach? Would you be okay with more than just Yagami? Would you be okay with multiple playable characters?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they've done it with the series in the past, so it wouldn't be.
Yeah, I think they can handle that.
Yeah.
If it's like, I don't know how many they've done, but I think like too many could be a problem.
Yeah.
Like 2, I'm confident
Kaito.
because I've played it.
Yeah.
But like 4, maybe, I don't know. 5, like, might be a bit much. I don't know, though. But just like the characters, they have to give all the characters enough time for me to actually care about playing as them.
You know what I would love is to play as Yagami and also play as a cop. Like, what if in this game you were playing as Kuroa or whatever,
Yeah.
and then like only like bits and pieces, but then you find out like, oh, one of your missions is to like kill someone or something. It's like, whoa, I'm playing as the villain. What a crazy twist! Because I just love the way this series. I love the way Judgment really, not like shine a light is kind of a weird term, I guess, but like it showed another side of this universe. You know,
Yeah.
we've been in the Yakuza so long. We've been in this criminal organization for so long, and it was so interesting to just see the police, the lawyers, and how corrupt like the entire system was, how everyone was taking advantage. My favorite scene in the game, I don't know if we're going to get there, but my favorite scene, Brad, number 1, was when the main cop comes in. You and Meifu are planning the sting. You like tail someone to the really sketchy place, and you're like, all right, just call the cops. Get him here. Get him here. We're gonna blow a lid on this whole thing. Cops come in and are just like, no.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Favorite scene in the game, just so incredible. Just again, seeing the corruption on all sides, and like, you know, this series does like kind of prop up the Yakuza as like, you
Of
know,
course.
anti-heroes, and it's, you know, I think it did it even more in this game. It's like, well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
cops are sketchy in this world.
The intelligence that they went into this script with, I think, is so good because they have the Yakuza in the background. Like, they're still an important and essential part, especially to specific characters, right? Like Higashi and Kaito, like, very central in their story. But it doesn't feel like the story is, like, relying on the Yakuza.
Yeah.
Like, it's able to kind of pull away from that a little bit. And like you were saying, tell a different story, show another side of this world. And I think that is really, really smart. I also just want to, just because we haven't mentioned him yet, I do want to bring up Shintani, the like kind of rival lawyer who you're working with and then gets killed, of course, and just that.
Brutal.
Like, again, the way they handle that rival relationship, it feels so believable. It's not like Shintani is this just like totally worthless, smug, sneering character. Like, there's more to him than that, and you get some real deep emotions from him, which
Why
is
you gotta
great.
bring me down, Ben? So sad. That's
me
the gut
bring you
punch.
up. Let me
But
bring you up.
you get justice in the end.
Yeah, and it's so important. Like, I wish he didn't die, obviously, because I like him, but like,
Yeah.
it's so impactful. It raises the stakes. Shit gets real. Like, having his death is a big part of this game, and I think they do it right.
Right, and you can't easily just put him in one category. It's not like, oh, okay, that guy's a jerk, I don't like him.
Yeah.
Like, where he moves throughout like your own emotional spectrum throughout the story changes, and it's like, oh, like he was really trying to do a lot of good things. So,
Let me bring him up.
Okay, bring me up.
Hamura.
Hamura,
Yes.
dude.
Yeah,
What a star,
What
baby.
dude.
What a star.
Star power.
yeah,
Wow, yeah.
This guy's
Superstar.
This guy's stage presence is off the charts.
Yeah.
It
Dude.
is.
It's captivating.
Every time this guy's on screen, I am in awe. I'm captivated.
Yes.
I don't know.
He's the replacement actor.
yeah.
Yo, this actor, sign him.
Yeah.
Hire him.
Sign him. Naughty Dog, let's go.
Yeah, Naughty Dog, dude.
him
Naughty
on.
Dog, sign this guy.
Put him in Last of Us.
I think I've pinpointed it.
Yeah.
I think Hamura is
Yeah.
the reason why I don't like Kuroiwa as much.
Hamura's
Because
so good.
like he just like
Yeah.
Kuroiwa like has a presence.
Yeah.
But when you're competing with Hamura and the way he just like chews up a scene, just watching him like curl up his lip is a pleasure, right? And
And
Yeah.
he's got so many emotions, man. This
Right.
guy's smug.
right,
This guy's dangerous, though.
Yeah.
This guy gives off a dangerous
He's
vibe.
ready to erupt at all
Yes.
times.
Right.
He'll kick you in the face.
That's
no
a
problem.
hard thing to pull off to a person playing a video game because we're always in power, dude. We're always in control, you know, and like just the fact that this guy is like giving me the creeps and I'm nervous, I just think it's because especially
Dude,
Yakuza, whenever
when
whenever you're the dragon, it's like, dude, I don't fear anyone.
Right.
I'm just gonna kick everyone's butt.
Dude, when you have to when you're his lawyer,
I know.
Yeah.
you got to get him off for murder. That's
Yeah.
so sick.
Yeah.
You have that relationship with Yagami, but I think what makes him so effective is it's not like he's just like antagonistic to Yagami throughout the whole thing. Like the way that he torments different characters, and
They got us.
We got an update.
We got a
updates
Windows
here.
update on the
Cool.
screen.
Great.
That's just for you, viewers.
Yeah.
We might have to choose another time for that. Should we close it or just leave it on the screen?
We gotta
I don't know.
close it because they're just gonna keep staring at it.
Yeah, sorry,
Yep.
viewers.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
hang tight.
We'll clear it away from you.
Hang tight.
Ben was about to talk about
Hamura.
Hamura hype. Great character. Unbelievable
So good.
performance. Yo, 2019 Goaties coming around.
Best characters.
Get ready, dude. Best performance.
We already blew it with Mikolash, so maybe we could bring this
I
around.
know. Redemption.
I think my favorite character is still Yagami.
Of course.
But
But like best
best
supporting
performance
best,
I
best
can get
supporting
behind. Best
actor.
performance I can get behind. Yeah, it's interesting, Hubert, because when I think about Hamura, he's such a Yakuza series character.
Yeah.
Like everything about him,
He is.
I feel like
Totally.
they've done in different
100%
ways.
Yakuza.
Final boss
But-
of like Kiwami or something.
Yeah.
It's just the way that face sneers and the way those lines are delivered. Like it doesn't even matter. Like
Yeah.
you don't need it to be
Yeah.
this incredibly new thing. It's just done so well that you love it regardless. Yeah,
Like he goes,
yeah, it's
eh? And it's like the most intense, dude.
Yeah.
And then obviously, like the way that he slowly, like, kind of becomes sympathetic at the end as
Yeah,
the tables
dude.
are turning.
Do
he's
the
put-
redemption when he walks
In
into
the courtroom,
dude.
Yeah, man. So good.
Yes.
Yeah,
So good.
yeah. He's like giving you the information that you need to.
Do the payoff.
Yes.
Great
Great
moment.
payoff.
Great
Yes.
moment.
Damn.
Hell of a game.
Uh,
Hell of a game, Judgment.
Yeah.
Hell of a
but
ride.
Before, maybe to bring us back down a little bit from this Hamura hype.
Hammer hype show.
I want to talk about the combat because
Oh, yeah.
the combat. I think even just amongst ourselves, I don't think even the audience has really heard us because we'll talk privately about games and stuff. We've kind of talked about the combat, and we fall into this frustrating place with this series sometimes where it's
Yes.
like we like the combat, we like this. Like I think we were really into styles, and there were a lot of good things there. I really like the mortal wounds in Judgment, and
Me
I do
too.
think the two styles, like I like what they're going for with their purposes, but it is definitely extremely similar
Yeah.
to what it's been doing from the beginning.
Was the wall jump, is that new for this
Yes,
game?
yes,
Oh,
okay.
yes,
it's new, baby.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Loved
yeah.
the wall. Dude. Kicking off the wall with the kick.
All day wall jump.
Yeah.
You know what I think this game needs? I think this series needs, right, is because the older Yakuzas have the Coliseum, and that's great. And I think of
Oh, underground?
Yeah, and I think of Mr. Shakedown. Great. Having these optional avenues with really challenging fights, I think goes a long way because then it really scratches that itch of classic beat 'em up action where you're just knocking fools around, getting weapons. Cool. It's like a classic beat 'em up. But then just having those optional, really intense fights, kind of where you can, maybe use some moves here and there. Obviously, a lot of it comes down to just like popping potions and whatnot. But just
I actually really like how they limited your inventory
Yes.
here. I thought that was a great
Having,
thing
like-
that they needed to do.
yes. Towards the end, I started stocking up on food,
Yes.
which
yeah.
turned out to be the kind of the exploit. But
Yeah.
yes, definitely getting rid of like the Tarners pluses and plus, like limiting those.
And that's the thing is like, just changing your pattern a little bit goes a long way.
Yes. But just some optional, really hardcore stuff.
They had like the thugs in the street that would show up if you beat up the gang
Yeah,
enough, but they
that
weren't
got-
like hard.
No, and it got so
But,
repetitive.
but the thing is, he's not a Yakuza. Like,
yeah.
he's a cop or he's a detective, Like, I don't know if Yagami would spend his time in a fight pit.
True.
When I think about it.
exactly.
So-
exactly. True.
I think the thing about Yakuza
Yeah.
is like you don't want to make it too complex, right? Otherwise it loses the part of its charm and what it is, and you're not
Yeah.
gonna. If it's too complex, you're not gonna want to get in fights all the time. So I do think you need to keep the simplicity to it. And let me know if I'm missing something here, or if this is if I don't know if I'm missing something, but. I like the so heat actions, EX actions
EX
in
actions.
Judgment. there are so many cool ones, but I don't necessarily always feel like there's a strong like gameplay immediate practical sense for like doing different ones all the time other than it just looking cool. I think they could do like a little bit of work there where it's like, okay, if you do this heat action, like it's a little bit harder to do. You'll like remove this piece of armor or something, or just like put them in a susceptible state that you wouldn't otherwise get. Like I think there's more room there to have you be more experimental with these super awesome moves.
Totally, because they're so close. Because the idea of finding hidden EX actions was great. Because to me, the more EX actions I'm unlocking, the easier it is to just hit that prompt in battle. There's more opportunities for that to come up.
Totally.
And that's great against like some of the more challenging fights. The problem is those are few and far between. There's not too many challenging fights. And I think you nailed it too, taking it a step further with like different EX actions will do different maybe status effects or weaknesses. I think that'd be awesome.
I did like a few intentionally. I had in like my playbook of like the one off the wall because you would like hit 4 people or 3 people. Like always had that one, the one where I'd run over and just flip them over. It just did like a ton of damage. So I definitely had a few heat actions I went back to the bat every time, but I think a little more to it would help.
Yeah. I think I think we're talking like 5 to 10%.
Yeah. Like if you got even like a buff of 5% more damage for 15 or 20 seconds, I think that would be huge to like give you a reason to use specific things.
Definitely. And I think
armor, dude. I think that's cool.
obviously I think if you do include multiple characters in the next Judgment, you could. It's a very easy way for you to lean into it, where it's like, okay, this character has this set of heat actions. They're going to be bad at this stuff, but good at this other stuff, and so you're going to have to approach combat completely differently. And I think the combat there is so good, and I think the changes that they did make. I do think Mortal Wounds were like a good idea.
Yes.
Totally.
Where it was like, okay, I have to be a little bit more careful, otherwise I'm just gonna lose that health, and it's gonna be expensive to get it back. I think it's a good idea, but I think they could be even more experimental than they are, and I don't think they even have to do that much. So just something I wanted to bring up.
Quick shout out, not really story related, quick shout out to the DICE virtual reality game where you're going
That
through.
was so much fun!
Incredible fun,
Yeah.
and the best place to grind cash because the economy turned out to be pretty awesome.
Yes,
in
I
the
agree.
end, because I was grinding this thing out. One, you need these play passes to even play that game, so it makes it special. You're not finding these play passes that frequently. And
See,
and that's
I
the way to
felt like
kinda-
I had a lot of play passes.
dude. But then you unlock
You like different tiers,
and the last tier, the long run was like 10 play passes per run, man. I was like, I'm sucking me dry with these play passes. I'm out of passes. But so there's that. But then you're funneling money into the Kickstarter stuff and building that building, man.
Oh yeah,
Dude, the
Kickstarter
I
thing.
did 45 out of
yes.
50 side quests in this game. I grinded hard,
Yeah.
dude. I did everything. I didn't finish the building.
Ugh.
I didn't finish it. A good economy.
But seeing
grinding it out and not finishing it, yes.
Seeing it get bigger and them having new goals was really
That's
cool.
really cool,
I
yeah.
want to talk about the VR game. I definitely did not grind it as hard as you did, but I think just the idea of it was perfect for this style of game, where it felt new, it felt exciting to see like where you were gonna land and how each game was just like a little bit different than the last. But it wasn't overly dense or complicated. It wasn't like for me like trying to learn mahjong and being like,
Oh
okay,
my
what do
God,
all
yeah.
these hands do and all that stuff. So I thought it was good. What I will say is like I think the drone racing was fine, but
it's
I was
fine.
never
it's fine.
like into it. Like
It's not the
I
car
just don't have the
racer.
same reaction to it as I do the virtual board game. So
I agree. Brad, you're gonna love the most though where that dice game is in Yakuza 6. It's this place called Rizap,
Okay.
and it's all about making gains,
Making gains?
lifting
Dude,
weights.
sick.
Yeah, you're gonna be so
Sick,
obsessed.
dude. Getting Cosmo
Rizap.
pumped? Hell yeah.
You're gonna be so fun.
what's funny about Judgment is like there aren't that many new mini games to take part in.
Yeah.
Which I think if you're just looking at it on paper, you might be, oh, that's a little bit disappointing. But like it's coming from like years of experience and refinement where like The batting cages, I don't know how if you
So fun.
So much.
and really hard.
So hard.
Yes.
So hard. And the
Like
guy giving you the golden bat, did you get that?
No, I
and
did
the
not
gloves.
get the gold. No.
There's this guy like off to the side, and if you complete some of the home runs,
okay, yeah.
he like gives you the
Is
gloves
he on the
first.
bench on the? Okay, yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
He gives you a golden bat later,
That's
so
so
your
cool.
marker is bigger to make it a little easier.
Yeah, the home run challenge, like in Judgment, like I just suck at it.
Me too.
Like,
we need Damiani.
yes, we need Damiani. Like it was easy. It's been easier in the past for me with the home run challenge for sure. Yeah. But yeah, all right. We've talked a lot about Judgment. We've talked about the characters. We've talked about the story. I didn't really want to turn this into like a story summary and have us dissect each part, especially since
Right.
like the story in Judgment is very dense. So I
Yeah.
think that's kind of a mess to navigate through.
Just highlights. We've been talking about highlights.
Yeah.
Yeah, but is there anything that we missed that you want to bring up before we close this thing out?
Just really liked, the grimy serial killer vibe. I know we joke about that, but like
Yeah.
Yeah, someone dead in an alley.
Yeah,
dude, with,
like-
sunglasses on there. Oh,
it's
man.
really
good.
dark
Yeah,
stuff.
it's
man.
dark. It's heavy, man.
Yeah, when you're dealing with like murder and stuff, and just a serial killer. And they didn't. Like, I thought the payoff was there. I have really high expectations when it comes to serial killer payoffs. It's like, all right, give me the motivations. Who's it going to be? How many, there's going to be some red herring. Like, don't Scooby-Doo me. But having the payoff with, it being a cop, I think it just hit me really hard. And it makes me want to play as a cop really in the next one, like, so badly. Because it's always been a part of this series, The Yakuza is always in conflict with the police, or the police are helping. Like, I think of Date and even Ayabe in this. I think it's
Date-san, yeah.
such a big part of this series, and it was just an interesting, like, we learned more about, not learn more, but like we really were living with the cops in this game a lot more than other games in the series, and I really like that angle.
You were just talking about the detective story on a fundamental level. I think
Yeah.
something that Judgment nails perfectly, like maybe better than I've ever seen, is how you feel about Okubo, the person who Yagami got off, and then he's saying that he's innocent, and you're like, it really looks like you're guilty, and it's just. They really had me not sure. Like
Yeah.
I truly had no idea. Where I'm like, this is plausible either way.
Yeah.
But
Because he could just be some mastermind.
right. But the way that they wrote and presented Okubo, he was both sympathetic, but he also seemed like he could be capable of this, and he was perfectly walking this line where I'm like, I feel bad either way.
Yep.
Like, and that was just so amazing. Where this character, where a lot of this mystery is hinging on, and you're not sure how it's gonna go. Like, I loved being in suspense for as long as I was, and it again, you didn't have that sensation of like, yeah, well, clearly this is the path they're going to take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I thought was really, really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Brad, is there anything last minute here you want to bring up?
Really love the end with all the boys at the end
So sick,
ganging
dude.
together. Dude,
Fellowship.
I got chills. Yeah, the fellowship vibes going on. I really liked the plot twist, I guess, with Sugira, like why he's with you. And it's because his sister got murdered by supposedly Okubo.
Yes.
And like
High
his
stakes.
whole motivation for being with you, I really appreciate it because I was like, yeah, he's just like this street like kid who did justice, like crimes or whatever, just kind of ends up with you. But there's more to it, which I really needed from that. And I was just very pleased. And I was like, okay, there's more to this character. And they took their time, like really getting towards
Yes.
that point too.
Totally.
Judgment takes its time.
Yes.
I love cinematic universes. I just want these plot threads to be not explored, but like I want them to be nodded. Like I want some nods in the next Yakuza games.
Sure.
You know, like I want to look up and I want to see the
The
law
Lord-
office. I want to
yeah.
see Genda law office up there. I want to maybe be able to stand outside of Yagami's detective agency. Maybe not go in, but like I can go up to the door and like peek in, like
Yeah. So I think
stuff like that.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I'd be way on board for that, where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's the Genda Law Office. But, man, I feel like you mentioned like cinematic universes, I feel like we've just gotten so conditioned to this point where it's like everything is a crossover. Everybody's going to interact with each other. Every story's going to, eventually get melded into one giant thing. And I really do. I'm sorry, Huber. I love that about Judgment, that it's not leaning on Yakuza, that it like stands proud on its own, is its own thing. I care about it because of its own story not for how it ties into Yakuza.
I just want the others to nod.
Just not out of respect.
Exactly.
Yes, I get that.
Because
I get that
JoJo
100%.
Like the standalone nature was amazing because it was
Yeah.
like, all right, clean break, fresh start, love it.
Yeah. Well, dear viewers, I hope you enjoyed this discussion, this profession of love for Judgment, and maybe someday we'll be back here talking about the next Yakuza project.
They're supposed to tease it, I think, at the end of the month, the end of August.
Okay,
so
let's here we go, baby.
Please be excited. There should be news about the future of the series coming soon.
Coming soon.
So generous.